I didn't want, I mean, let's see if people get in, but it's live streaming public, so just you be aware.
Okay.
You are live streaming. No, it's an adventure. An adventure. It's an adventure. So we were homeless for a few days. Exactly, he started the whole thing. Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is a pleasure to host this new session on Toward an Innovative, Integrated, Transformative Action to Tackle Climate Change. Today is the Science Day here at COP, and we are very pleased to welcome this distinguished panel of speakers. Now, of course, science is very important because really it provides its responses to the societal challenges we are facing, which mainly how to tackle climate change. We can do experiments, we can present new ideas, and these ideas and experiments will have to be anchored into evidence to ensure that the concepts are fully loaded onto what I call resilience and soundness to allow later on to be mainstreamed in the economy toward, for example, innovation, and also trying to respond practically into what we are needing in terms of responding to our challenges or societal challenges. So we need time to do the reality checks to ensure that these solutions are really functioning and they are not leading to unintended consequences. And if they are leading to unintended consequences, then these consequences will have to be tackled over time and really try to be minimized toward the objective they are serving for. So I think what we are trying to do here as EMEA is really to try to bridge science to policy and actions. And from actions, we have the experiments and evidence, and try really to improve our science and then improve our advice to policy makers. So what we try to do is really to close the gap between these three dimensions: science, policy, and actions. Be open knowledge, as transparency in our work is very important to allow also citizens and civil society organizations to ensure that they have their feedback to us. So this is what we're trying to do also at the Euro-Mediterranean Economists Association. We work very much on three regions: Europe, Mediterranean, and Africa, because of this proximity, what I call geographical proximity. But not only, we are also trying to be the bridge from a global standpoint where we learn from other experiences. For example, yesterday we invited Bahamas, Prime Minister of Bahamas, trying to give us really this new thinking about how they are dealing with their seagrass and how to be able to value their seagrass to ensure that they have higher assets value, and then they can develop what they call the blue capital, nature blue capital. So this event will try to present the main pillars for what I call the transformative action. I'm talking about action. At the beginning we were talking about transition. I don't want to talk anymore about transition. I think we are moving from transition and we need to act. And what I heard yesterday from the events we organize is practically we need to be ambitious, we need to act, and we need to have a paradigm shift. And this is what we're presenting today, is really a paradigm shift that is based on sustainability, inclusiveness, responsibility, and transparency. And all the speakers that you see today, they are anchored into this thinking of transformative pillars for moving our economic models from what I call, whether it's called the extractive economic model, which is in my view static and is not anymore responding to our societal challenges, and based on the climatic crisis that we are living in today, we have to move as fast as possible. So not further ado, I don't want to spend much time talking, but before we start our discussion, I would like to the team to post a video that we at EMEA prepared And we are launching today the STA, the Sustainable Transformative Alliance. So whoever would like to be part of this alliance, we have already few partners that we have started with a pre-launch on the 3rd of November, and whoever is interested to be partner of this alliance, it's voluntary. We are all academics working for responding and providing solutions to these societal challenges. So please, if you can show the video.
The last decades have provided clear evidence of the effects of climate change. As stated by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, emerging vulnerabilities in every corner of the planet suggest the need of a systemic approach where cooperation among countries, regions and communities becomes essential. In 2022, the Euro-Mediterranean Economists Association, EMEA, launched the Sustainable Transformative Alliance, STA, for Action, a forward-looking multi-stakeholder initiative to encourage actions that accelerate the transition towards a sustainable, greener and more resilient model in Europe, the Mediterranean and Africa. The aim of the STA is to build a multi-stakeholder platform of collaboration based on knowledge co-creation, identification of needs and opportunities, transferring, policy transformation and trans-disciplinary actions. Gathering key players involved in the thinking, research, policy, planning and implementation of sustainability actions, the STA initiative aims to co-develop and implement transformative economic models and actions that are transparent, responsible, inclusive and sustainable. The STA seeks to work in a transdisciplinary multi-stakeholder approach through interactive pillars. Biodiversity and nature capital. Challenges and opportunities associated with emergent concepts of valuing nature-based solutions and biodiversity conservation to combat climate change. Territorial resilience. Challenges to meet urban metabolism and territorial planning, incorporating integral, natural-based solutions in cities and towns, enhancing resilience through biocapacity, communities' livability, and territories' revitalization. Sustainable finance. Roadmap for accelerating sustainable and greener business models in finance and innovative mechanisms of funding towards sustainable economies. Sustainable entrepreneurship and skills. Fostering sustainable business models, enhance sustainable skills and behavioural change in business leadership, entrepreneurship and management.
STA is a forward-looking transdisciplinary and multi-stakeholder initiative for action that seeks to accelerate sustainable socioeconomic models, policies and actions that are transformative and aligned with the net zero scenario.
The methodological framework of the STA relies on two models. At the socio-economic level, the TRIS, a model based on 4 principles: transparency, responsibility, inclusiveness and sustainability. It aims at rethinking the reference economic models at local, national and regional policy levels. At a local level, the Ecosystemic Transition Unit, ETU model, focused on implementation of actions. It works as a tool to integrate policies with plans and projects at local level, based on territorial resilient planning, livability, circularity and organisational capacity. STA initiative aims to promote and accelerate transformative actions by strengthening the transdisciplinary and multi-stakeholders approach and applying innovative socio-economic and implementation models, strategies and policies with a systemic vision at different scales of action. The Euro-Mediterranean Economists Association, bridging science, policy and action.
And this gives you an idea on what we are trying to do also after this panel to move forward this transformative action and alliance and then to contribute to the what I mentioned in societal challenges. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mark Hutchinson. He's the CEO of Fortescue Future Industries. He's coming to us from Australia here in COP. Please, Mark, the floor is yours.
Good, and thanks very much for the invitation today. So, Mark Hutchinson, I'm the CEO of Fortescue Future Industries. What are we? Fortescue is one of the biggest mining companies in the world for iron ore, based in Perth, Australia. And also, we've made a major shift the last 2 years to be the world's biggest developer of green hydrogen. So when I hear, your objectives today, it kind of rings very true to me. I think if I kind of think about this COP, it's about the do rather than the talk. And we had a great start to the week, actually. We're doing a really cool project in Kenya where we're taking capped geothermal power and turning that into fertilizer. And it's so cool because it means that Kenya can get off fossil fuels for fertilizer forever. They have a domestic production which they don't have now, and they can save the foreign exchange reserves. So this is so cool. When we saw President Ruto, the president, he walked into the room and basically said, where's the agreement? And the team were like, oh, it's being negotiated. And he said, no, we're not leaving this room until we sign it, because we're going to do, not talk. So that set the scene for me for the week, actually. So I'm going to talk about two things that Fortescue is doing in the do category, right? So we're doing two things. Firstly, we are taking one of the biggest mining companies in the world, and we're going to decarbonize it. 100% real zero, not net, none of this dodgy kind of offsets. Okay, we're going to real zero by 2030, which is the first big industrial company in the world to do it. And what we're learning about the use of technology and science along the way has been fascinating, actually. The second part of it is this whole idea about being the world's biggest producer of green hydrogen. We actually have a contract with E.ON in Germany to produce 10% of Germany's power in green hydrogen. It's just enormous. And so they came to us because of Australia having all those wonderful resources, but also because they know politically sound, but we also have the ability to kind of corral other places around the world and use our technology on how to get things done very quickly. So let me just talk about a decarb bit, because it's actually quite important. So most corporations, I've had a career in GE for 24 years. I've been on a bunch of boards. They're so slow, they're so lazy. And everyone has this, oh, we're going to do it by 2050, which is basically saying it's someone else's problem, not mine. So we decided, look, how do we show the world that we can do it before 2030 and take the mining company, the mining's the laggards in this industry, right, and show them that we do it real zero. So actually what we did, we went into the mines, we told the teams, we're going to turn the petrol, the gasoline, the oil off in 27. And if you don't have an alternative by then, we're going to shut them down. And if anyone's met Andrew Forrest, our founder, he's quite serious about this stuff, right? So, and what came out of that was actually the team rallied around, and we have about 25,000 people in the mines, with so many amazing ideas, and we're going to do it. And it's because, so the first message is, if you think about technology and science, the best place to start is at home with the people who work for you, actually. They've got all the ideas. So I'll give you one example. We take this iron ore 500 kilometers on the longest train in the world. It's a 4-kilometer train, 40,000 tons. These trains are enormous, down to the coast. Now, and at the moment we burn about $1 billion of diesel every year. A lot of it comes from the trains. They go downhill. So what the team figured out was that actually what you use the power for is braking. And why do you turn that into kinetic energy? So we put on a 70 megawatt pack, a battery pack, and it creates enough energy going downhill to send the train back. Super, super cool. These are the kind of stuff we came up with. So, and we also found that, corporations generally, they're like, well, we'd love to decarbonize, but where do we get the capital from? When you switch it off, most corporations view fuel costs as kind of fixed costs. It's kind of been there forever. It's conditioned in our head. But actually, if you kind of unlock that and say, if I can save that, that becomes your capital for decarbonization. So I'll give you an idea, some numbers. We've committed $6.2 billion to decarbonize our company. Before now, in 2030, we saved $3 billion in saved fuel costs. So that's $3.2 billion. And then after that, we save $1 billion a year forever. Right? So it just, the maths is superb. Could even, our chairman says, that even Warren Buffett would invest in that, right? So I think the message is that, the other thing was that we the other big excuse I hear is that, oh, the technology is not there, the science isn't proven yet. Well, actually, that's rubbish. The science is there. You've just got to get on and do it. So we went to all the equipment manufacturers who make trucks and trains and all the other stuff we do. And they said, yeah, we'll have something for you in 2040. So we decided, well, thank you very much, but we're going to do it ourselves. So all the technology we're doing ourselves. We have some collaborations on chassis and things like that, but the core technology is our own. And that's been kind of born out of the necessity of knowing that that's going to be, we're turning the power off in 2 to 3 years. So it's profitable. If a mining company can do it, anybody can do it, I can tell you. And anybody who has a 2050 target is kidding themselves. So that's kind of the first part of what we're doing. The second part, which is what I head up, is really the transition to trying to get the world off fossil fuels by using green hydrogen. And the way to think about what is green hydrogen, it's kind of a battery, really. That's the way to think about it. So if you have abundant power in Australia or Brazil or in Namibia, and you want to get it to Germany, it's quite difficult to transport it by cable. It's a long way, right? So what you have to do is you turn it into, use the renewable power, you turn it into green hydrogen, and then you ship it to Germany, Korea, Japan. And basically that's the way to transport green power. So our view is that this can replace fossil fuels. So we are going to do this at scale. We've committed billions and billions. We're a $60 billion company. We have bet the company on doing this. And we are have projects around the world, in Australia, in Kenya, in Namibia, in Brazil, Morocco, here in Egypt. We met the Prime Minister yesterday, Saudi. And the idea is to produce green hydrogen at such a scale that it absolutely eliminates fossil fuels forever. So we're on this journey. So those two things are kind of showing the world that actually, if you actually do something, you can start now. So the same thing on the technology side. A lot of companies are saying, oh, well, look, the technology is not there, it hasn't evolved enough. Our view was the electrolyzer technology, particularly, it's not the best, but it's been around for years. And what's going to happen is that as I found in GE, we bought a company, a wind business on Enron. At the time, everybody said, you're crazy, why would you do that? But actually, what happened over time is that once you get scale in these businesses, you go down this fast curve of innovation and cost. And what's going to happen in the green hydrogen world is, as we get scale, new technologies are going to come in. But we started with the existing technology, which is PEM. It's been around for quite a while. It's cost more than it probably should, but given in our customers are all in Europe, where it's so expensive to get power, they are quite excited that we're actually getting going, and we'll work down the technology. So I think the messages to me today is that, one, we have to encourage all the private sector to start now, that there's no excuse. The ecologists were completely right on telling us what's going to happen to this world. They were just completely wrong on the time. So what we have to do is start now. You can do using existing technology. You get going at scale. And if you're looking for ideas on science technology, a really, really good place to start is with your own team. And just ask them to come up with some ideas. And one way to encourage them to do so is burn the boats, and by telling them that we're going to switch this place off in a couple of years, and best way to have a job is to find a solution. So excited to be here today, and love the way you're thinking. Thank you.
That's great, Mark. Hard decisions are very difficult to take, but you did it and you took it, and now you are decarbonizing, and at the same time, in the right time. And I think many companies should have done this many years ago. And now they not only they have to do it, but they have to accelerate doing it, so the cost will be higher. And I think this is what will happen, and they have no other choice than to do it. And I think this is one very important message that you can convey to whoever there, to really give yourself as an example and your company, and then trying really to push into this dynamic to decarbonization, and at the same time technologies like hydrogen, green hydrogen could be one way, but there might be other technologies that will pop up now that have to be really looked at, identified, and then pushed into this transformative scenario. So our next speaker is Ralph Shami. Ralph is Assistant Director at the Institute of Capacity Development at the IMF, International Monetary Fund. He's in sabbatical now and working on two main risks for our humanity. One is the climate change and biodiversity loss. Many years ago, when Ralph mentioned to me the whales and the capacity of the whales to sequester carbon, I looked at him, I said, I think this is the future. And then he said to me, I have a paper that is coming in 1 month or two, and I'm not sure of that. I said, I think this is a great opportunity. And now Ralph, it's one of the pioneers of valuing nature capital. And this is quite an ambitious, endeavor. But Ralph now is practically valuing capacity of whales to sequester carbon, also seagrass, coral reefs, and all of these that are really our fauna, flora of our planet. And then he can talk about it. Please, Ralph. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Reem. Hello, everyone. Can I go to my presentation? Voila. All right. Oh, fantastic. Okay. So what I work on is valuing natural capital. And when I talk about natural capital, I'm talking about blue and green, flora and fauna. And pretty soon you're going to hear something amazing from my colleague over there. So I will not steal his thunder because I'd like to value what he's doing. Okay, so let's just put things in context. Why are we doing this? Because I was at COP25, and where all the people that are concerned about climate change showed up. Who didn't show up are the people who are working on natural capital, or basically the people, you know, what Sir David Attenborough has been telling us, that nature itself, biodiversity is at risk. Those guys weren't there. Then I went to Marseille, and all the people that, the IUCN people working on nature were there, but who wasn't there? The climate guys. Because it seems the two camps weren't talking to each other or thought these two risks are not linked. Well, guess what? They are linked, of course. It's the human activity that's causing both risks to materialize in real time. Then I showed up at COP26, and they started to say, duh, these two risks are kind of related, man. And the answer now in COP27, of course they're related, but we got to do a lot more than that. We got to fix those. We got to fix this now because we're running out of time. So, but this is about, you know, sort of the business side of this. So I'm going to put my hat on as a financial economist and say, how do I take this potential calamity and make it a potential opportunity for everyone? So let's look at the climate risk and how we've defined the solution to climate risk by reduction in gas emissions such as carbon dioxide and methane and so forth. So it's reduction and at the same time offsets, or taking the stock out of the atmosphere. In terms of the risk to the natural capital and the loss of biodiversity, the definition has been, the approach has been, can we invest in nature? Is nature an investable proposition, or we always have to basically go put our hat out and beg for money at around Christmas time and so forth, so that people feel bad and give us money? So question is, how can we do both at the same time? And I say at the same time because we really don't have much time. We cannot tackle climate and then tackle the death, the calamity of loss of nature, because if either one of them were to materialize, we're done in. It's over for us. So we need to do both at the same time. Guess what? There's a solution. Here it is. Here it is. Okay? If we were to invest in nature, invest, I'm not talking about giving to nature, invest over and above the philanthropy, then by definition, invest in a living and thriving nature, you're reducing the risk to nature itself, okay, and the loss of its biodiversity. And the IPCC finally has come around in the latest report and said, guess what? Nature can help us reduce climate risk by at least 38%. Ta-da, voila, here's a solution. You invest in nature, you reduce the risk to nature. Nature turns around and says, I'm going to help you reduce climate risk by at least 38%. So we have a plan of action. But let's start with the first word, invest. Is nature investable? All right, so the science tells us that not only trees capture carbon, but also the animals in the forest help to capture carbon, such as the elephants. This is paper by Fabio Berzaghi and friends, published in Nature Journal 2019, where they actually show proof that the elephants, through the way they walk and forage and all this stuff, increase carbon sequestration in the forests by at least 7 to 14%. So my job, if you show me the scientific methodology, I can build a financial model over that, and this would be the salary that you would pay a single elephant for capturing carbon on behalf of humanity. If the elephant could speak, say, hey man, I've been doing this for free, can you pay me? This is how much you'd have to pay her, okay? This is work with Carlos Duarte, the father of blue carbon. Carlos came to me, he says, I have all this wonderful data on seagrass, global seagrass. Seagrass captures so much carbon, and seagrass lives literally forever. I mean, unless you do something to it. Can you value the carbon sequestration by seagrass? I said, yeah, it's a dynamical system. I can do this. So this is a paper that is forthcoming where we show that the global value of seagrass is just in carbon sequestration, is $2 trillion. But seagrass is also a great defense against flooding. We can calculate the value of flood control. That's about $1.5 trillion. And then when you have healthy seagrass, guess what you have? Healthy fish stocks. Okay, so these are the scientists in Australia have already published that. That is on their website. I'm a financial economist. I looked at their data, and I can actually calculate what is the impact, the delta, of healthy seagrass on fish stocks. So you're talking about fish food security, you're talking about flood control, and you're talking about climate change. All right, what else? This is work of our colleague Natalie Ilmi of the Monaco Scientific Lab, where they show that this coming also IPCC report, coral reefs represent about $36 billion a year in revenue. Imagine. All these living systems have economic and financial value. This is work that I did with my colleagues, started in 2019. We met a bunch of scientists who have actually, starting with Andy Pershing's 2010 paper, where they showed that the whales capture so much carbon on their body and indirectly through the fertilization of phytoplankton. So, okay, again, what we did, we said, well, if you have a population growth model, can we value the services of a single whale? Meaning, if the whale could speak, it would say, can you pay me a salary for capturing carbon on your behalf, for keeping you alive? How much would you have to pay her? Minimum of $3 million. All right, this is the open ocean. This is the orphan. This is beyond the 200-mile exclusion zone for every country. All right, this belongs to no one and therefore belongs to everyone. It's the scientists, again, IPCC report showing you that the open ocean has been grabbing carbon since time immemorial. And since they've started collecting data between 1870 and now, the open ocean has grabbed and sequestered carbon below 1,000 meters, about 500 gigatons of carbon dioxide, not carbon, carbon dioxide. Now, doesn't take a genius. This is the stock. If you have a price, you multiply the price by the stock, that's worth $30 trillion. So next time you hear of somebody who wants to dredge the ocean, to do stuff with it, you tell them, can you produce that much money by destroying the ocean? Because you touch that, all that carbon is going to go back bellowing up into the atmosphere. Okay? All right. So what does this tell us? Biodiversity is valuable. It's not about trees. It's about the life among the trees. It's about the elephants interacting with the trees. It's not about only the oceans, you know, seagrass, salt marsh, mangroves, but it's also about the creatures that are living in the ocean, interacting, creating the web of life, creating the value for us. All right, so science tells us nature is incredibly living and thriving nature. I'm not talking about a dead nature. It's incredibly valuable. We can value it. We can translate that knowledge into dollars and cents. Can we create a market? The answer is not yet. We need this part. We need the legal framing, meaning who owns those assets? Who owns the seagrass? Who can write the contract on their behalf? Who owns the elephants? Who owns the whales? This is the third pillar of this work. Once you resolve this thing, you go to this. This basically says for any country that wants to sell the carbon of its natural assets, be it blue, green, or I'm not going to say it. The next one was my colleague, he'll talk about it. What do they need to do? They need to know, one is, how much do you have? What is it that I have? If I am the Bahamas, we found out yesterday from the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, they're sitting on at least 25% of the global biomass of seagrass. How much did I value seagrass for you? 2 trillion. They're sitting on 25% of it. If we could take it to the markets, the Bahamas per capita becomes the richest country on this planet. That's what we're talking about, okay? So first thing is the accounting. Second is we need market valuation of these assets, okay? Third is we need to resolve the legal aspect of it. Who owns it? Who can speak on its behalf? Once you do that, then the natural asset becomes a natural capital, becomes a financial capital. It enters the balance sheet of the owners of the natural asset. It changes their net worth. If it's a country, it changes its ratings. It changes its debt sustainability. It changes everything. Who's on the demand side? Never forget, you need two sides to the market. With the Microsofts, all the corporations out there that made pledges to go carbon zero, carbon negative, carbon neutral, they will buy the carbon, in this case. Carbon could be something else tomorrow. And what do they get in return? What does Microsoft get from investing in the Bahamas, seagrass? It gets to claim the carbon credits. It gets to enhance its ESG score. It gets to say, I'm meeting SDG 1, 3, 4, 8, 10, 13, 14, 15. How much is that worth? Surely more than a carbon credit. Now, since, last thing, and I'll stop, that very important, since we're talking about a living and thriving nature, that's how we get that value. The middle column is very important. We need principles for bringing finance into this market. One is the money has to flow back to look after nature in perpetuity. Nature is a living system. It has rights just like you and me. And it needs to look after the people, the stewards of nature, indigenous people, the local population, in perpetuity. Once we do that, notice, everybody wins. The governments that have sitting on natural asset win, the buyers win, local communities win, and nature by definition wins. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ralph, and I think you did great. All of the work that you have been doing so many years, you summarized it in a few minutes. Thank you very much. I would like to give the floor to Rick Fox. He's the CEO of Partana. I'm not going to say more, so please.
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning. What a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. I'm among my team for the day, my teammates, as I'd like to call them. I come from the world of sports, also from the entertainment world. So I'm used to having company as I reach out and tackle challenges throughout the course of my day. I'm thoroughly inspired by what you said, Mark, in a couple areas. Ralph, what you've included, and what you've challenged us, Ryan, to be thinking of, which is the action, the policy, and the science. These things all coming together to create solutions and innovation. So a little bit about how I got here. So I'm from the Bahamas, as Ralph mentioned. I come from the front line of climate change. For those of you that have been coming to COP27 for years, or COPs for years, this is number 27. This is my first. I haven't always been a justice warrior or a climate warrior in my life, but there's nothing more inspiring and motivating than to experience it firsthand for yourself. The Prime Minister was here yesterday. He spoke about our time as a country running out. He addressed the world yesterday, 2 days ago, where he spoke of getting real, being real about where we are currently at in solutions. There's been a lot of talk. At COP26, he spoke about the talk without the action. We're hearing Mark, you just spoke about the best way to find these solutions is to burn the boats. And I love that. That's in essence what I've done in my life. Back in 2019, I landed on the shores of one of our islands in Abaco, where Hurricane Dorian had just rushed through and decimated 2 of our islands, displacing 30,000 people, destroying homes. I smelt death for the first time in my life. I saw with my eyes how a refugee is created. And I swore in that moment that if I was Bahamian in any part of my body, there was a Bahamian pride that I had to not only help with a couple dollars for a couple of weeks, to then have it be forgotten for months to come, and to come back years later and to see zombies walking around your homeland. I knew I had to be a part of the solution. The beauty of innovation and technology and science is that you can come up with those solutions and those innovations from the most unlikeliest places. I am not a scientist, yet I am here talking about science. How is that possible? Well, I believe out of survival, you will find solutions. As you spoke of, Mark, starting at home, I'm starting at home. I started at home from the ground, where I was motivated to find solutions around building more sustainably, wiser, smarter, stronger, more nature positive, more regenerative in the way we build. And in that, having played a scientist on TV, I played a scientist in The Big Bang Theory. If you've ever seen that show, that's the closest I've come to a scientist. But I also come from the world of sports, where I've played on championship level basketball teams, world championship level teams that I've been fortunate enough to be the captain of, where I've led more talented men, more successful and in their crafts than I was, but they seemed to somehow listen to me. And I don't know, over the years, what I learned about why they were listening to me was that I was willing not only to lead, but I was willing to follow. I was willing to be the dumbest person in the room. I was willing to surround myself, whether it's hiring those people, collaborating with those people, to find the smartest, brightest, most inspiring people to tackle these solutions. We put them together, and in that moment, we went on a journey to create an innovative technology that's from the company that I'm the CEO of, called Partana. So Partana brings innovation to the marketplace in areas from the front line that don't have time to wait for solutions. Our product, our technology, avoids CO2 emissions in its creation. It removes direct air capture CO2 in its curing process, and it also generates carbon credits to be redistributed back to those in need. So the versatility, the affordability, and the scalability of this technology allows us to perform the same way cement performs. Cement performs the way we've always known it to perform, right? It is how we develop, right? We're not going to stop developing, though, right? What has been the biggest problem in our development is, though, how do we develop without polluting? Well, if we're developing and polluting, and all that pollution is going up in the air, we're sitting here waging a losing battle, because no matter how much we fight to turn the tides of climate change, we're still developing and polluting at the same time. So the thing that I've learned from Ralph over the years and other amazing folks here that are in this fight is that even if we were to stop developing today, which we know is not going to happen, right? If we were to stop, we still would need to drain the tub of all the CO2 in our atmosphere. So that requires innovation, technology, solutions that is not only going to stop emitting CO2, but finding ways to remove it. That's what Partana is doing. Now, the other beautiful thing that I've discovered in spending time with scientists, some of them out of the blue carbon ecosystem. You mentioned Carlos Duarte. Carlos is the godfather of blue carbon. He is now looking to the ocean as a solution. And the beautiful thing about what you said, Ralph, is we're making nature the star in the equation. We're so busy trying to solve a problem, and the star is sitting right in front of us. How do we collaborate with nature as a solution? Well, that's what we're doing at Partana. That's what Carlos Duarte pointed to me 6 months ago and said, Rick, you got to be a COP. And I said, yeah, I've never been to a COP. And it said, it's at COP that you can speak to one of the ingredients in your formula as a solution to the problem with the brine as waste in our world. So let's look at what brine does in our society, right? Water is a necessity. It's a must. It is one of the most rarest commodities we have on Earth now. So you look at this region alone, water is more valuable than oil, and we know how much value oil seems to have, right? Well, you get that water out of desalination plants. Why am I at home in the Bahamas? Starting in the Bahamas, Mark. Like you said, start at home. We're one of the largest desalinating plant users in the Western Hemisphere. Well, out of that comes brine. So when you talk about a desalination plant, 40% is fresh water when you run it through the membranes. The other 60% gets pumped into the ground. That's a toxic waste. Not good for the environment. Well, what we're able to do through Partana is we're able to take a desalination plant, tell them, turn the dial up a little bit more, you get 90% fresh water, give us the 10% waste, and we'll put it to use. An example with the Prime Minister in action, we need action and policy. Took us about 6 months, but our technology is now approved for building in the Bahamas. We're a formula that's structurally approved for structures. We've run ahead to where now we're going to be building housing. We did an MOU with the government of the Bahamas for 1,000 affordable homes in our country in the coming 3 years. We're going to be the action that we're calling for. We're going to be the action that it takes strong leadership like the Prime Minister of the Bahamas that says, I don't have time to waste, I need solutions. We're doing that now. So this is my invitation to anyone out there in the world. If you're a country that's looking to build in a better world, in a better way, where 38% of all emissions are coming from the construction industry, 9% of that is coming from cement, we're an alternative bonding solution to that. We are a concrete that is nature positive, regenerative building, and it's here. Please reach out, partana.com. We'd love to talk to you about it, and we want to build a better world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rick. This is really going from waste to regeneration. And this is a very nice opportunity for all the waste producers to decouple the parts of the waste that could be used for positive and for positive use and for responding to the societal challenges. And this is the role of science. No boundaries for anything, just think, work about it and decouple, and then find the solutions to allow us to respond to our societal challenges. Thank you very much for this. As I mentioned to you, I had this idea in theory, and now I have an example. Thank you. I would like to give the floor to Harris Iyer. Harris is a neuroscientist, co-founder of Brain Capital Alliance, and I will let you talk about what you want to tell us.
Okay, testing. Well, Rick, you're a very hard act to follow, but I'll do my best. I'm glad to be part of your team, and as a good team member, I'm going to keep my remarks brief, and if anyone wants to talk to me afterwards about Brain Capital, happy to do that. I'm Australian-American, so I'm happy that the Aussies are here today with us too. Green Brain Capital is what I'm here to talk about. Essentially, I'm a physician and a neuroscientist, and I was very frustrated by sort of the lack of scale that I could have as a physician seeing patients one-on-one. And so what you see here today as I present is my attempt to try to scale the impact of my understanding of the brain and neuroscience, and obviously doing that. This is neuroscience-inspired economics. It's a kind of new field that we're developing with RIM and EMEA and colleagues around the world, including at the OECD. So Brain Capital, we're proposing as a sort of human capital 2.0. The world, we say, is increasingly relying on brain capital, where a premium is put on brain skills and brain health. So this is very interesting, relevant to COP27, that we know broadly what we need to do for climate, but it's all about mindset and it's all about our behavior. So what I'm trying to do with this work is to try to unlock how do we get optimized human behavior to sort of follow along with the great examples that have been set already by my co-speakers. Here are some brain challenges that we deal with. We know that on the left-hand side, these clinical issues cost trillions of dollars to the global economy every year. Depression, Alzheimer's disease, and then non-clinical issues that are impacting our brains. Things like fake news are actually an insult on our brain at a neurological level. So what we're doing with Brain Capital is recognizing the totality of these challenges on our brains. brain capital is relevant across the lifespan. So we all sit on this continuum somewhere from early life to later life. And just wanted to make a special note that we collaborate with Minderoo, particularly for the Thrive by 5 group on the first 5 years of life, which involves a lot of perinatal support, maternal health support. Green Brain Capital is this new model that we're developing and we're soon to be publishing on. It includes basic concepts, and I probably will just stop here. How do we inculcate green brain capital into the brain infrastructure of countries? That's what we're talking about. Neuroscience-inspired economics and neuroscience-inspired policy. How do we optimize brain health? We need to be brain healthy so we can be good entrepreneurs, so that we can be creative, so that we can get up in the morning and be, you know, good contributing members of society. So brain health is critical. How do we deal with mental health issues? How do we get equity? Ecological intelligence. How do we promote ecological intelligence across the lifespan? How do we promote creative infrastructure of our brains? We know that there is neuroscience, looking at the neuroscience of creativity. How do we propel this into the education system for little kids all the way through to universities and even into midlife? How do we teach green skills? This is an important kind of component of our brain capital. And then digital literacy, finally. How do we help people to work out how to navigate the modern media environment so that they're not susceptible to fake news, whether it's radical left fake news or radical right fake news? We need to really steel people's resolve and prepare their brains for this kind of green world of the future. So I'm going to stop here, but this is what we're working on with the OECD and colleagues at WHO and the UN to try to think about this, refine it. How do we measure it, track it, and implement it? How do we use public sector and then also private sector, different investment vehicles? But anyway, happy to talk more if anyone's interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harris, very much. I know that this is very difficult to make everything you do in 5 minutes, but I think the whole idea here is to take into account that there is neuroscience research which is not yet used very much into economics and policy and business, and I think this is the time to do it. Go very forward into really having all the research, different disciplines that will really lead to sound economic policies. I'm an economist, and at a point in time I felt depressed because economics is not anymore the solution for our societal challenges. I look at Ralph, he's another economist, but he converted earlier than I, and now I'm converting also to the neuroscience part, working with Harris and other colleagues really to ensure that neuroscience policy-based research is implemented into our economic policies, and this is essential because we're driven by our brains in our economic decisions, and I think we cannot just say that our economic decisions are optimal without saying that our brain is driving optimal decisions. And this is the assumption that we've been making for many years, and this is not enough. So we need to make sure that there is evidence that our brain outcomes are optimal. So now I would like to give the floor to Enrique de Valamore. He is a director of MedWaves, the Regional Center for Sustainable Consumption and Production. Has been doing a lot of work on green economy, circular economy, dealing with also waste, plastics and all of that. And I think this is hard in our economies. We need to move into this trend in economics and economic sectors. Please, the floor is yours.
Sorry, a lot of papers here. Thank you very much, Rim. Thank you. I will put the chrono because otherwise I will be. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much. We know each other for a time ago. So, yes. Vamos a ver. We all agree that entrepreneurs are shaping our society. They have been doing it throughout all of our history, right? So, so we have an issue here. First of all, as probably we all share, our education systems are not promoting entrepreneurship. Most of our education systems are promoting a society of employees, not of the entrepreneurs. One problem we're having. Second, currently, this is just a personal reflection, maybe I'm wrong, but I have been working for about 13 years supporting entrepreneurs for green economy, for circular economy. So probably at some moment we'll have to be business with you. And we are seeing that if on the one hand we're an issue because entrepreneurs, let's say entrepreneurship is not supported in general in most of our systems. And second is that the, let's say, most successful entrepreneurs of nowadays, for example, started with Elon Musk, which is probably the most influenced person in our times, are just thinking outside. So they are thinking about how to reach Mars, how to live in Mars. So this is an issue because we have not reached yet how we can prevail, how we can develop in our own planet that we are already now putting money, putting innovation to outside. So this is really an issue. Why? Because this guy, which is absolutely great, I admire him, but he's in that sense influencing a lot of population, including of course also entrepreneurs, and giving the wrong message. So I think that you already captured what I was trying to tell you. So why I was mentioning this? Because by 13 years, our small center has been supporting entrepreneurs for our planet. What I mean is green entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs providing services and products that are in somehow addressing different environmental challenges. And in that sense, I want to mention specifically the transversal type of approach we're trying to promote when supporting these entrepreneurs, because the environmental challenge, or let's say the challenge we are facing as humanity, is not only about climate change. As we know, it's about climate change. The colleague from Bahamas, the entrepreneur, was mentioning that the issue about chemicals and so on and so forth. So it's very important to know that by supporting entrepreneurs that are providing some kind of environmental value, they are contributing to not only provide solutions for climate change, but also at the same time for other matters like, for example, chemicals. Let me put you an example. We are supporting a small company in Israel that are basically have invented and are trying to trade a machine that is transforming hazardous waste from medical waste, hazardous waste, into normal waste. So in that sense, they are contributing to one environmental challenge, which is harmful waste, okay? And that means harmful chemicals. But by doing so, they are also in some way addressing the issue of climate change. Why? As probably many of you know, the problem of climate change involves us within many other issues, the fact that there is a melting of the poles and also of the permafrost. There are studies that is demonstrating that the melting of the permafrost will release more harmful chemicals that have been there for years, okay? So the type of work that these tiny entrepreneurs are doing in that sense, preventing the generation of hazardous chemicals in the hospital and could convert them in waste to be easily managed, is contributing not only to the problem of waste, to the problem of chemicals, but also to the issue of climate change in general. So I want to make this point. And in that sense, I'm going to sorry, now we stop, because now it's about 5 minutes, and I want to share with you something that is really important for this presentation. Okay, so during all these years, we have developed a specific program to support entrepreneurs that can design their business from the very first moment in a way that will be not only providing a service and product that will be useful for society in terms of, I don't know, offering some kind of touristic tourist resort or some kind of a cleaning product, but that this product or service, as it is from the very first moment, in a way that provides an environmental value and also, if possible, as a social value. So that means that we have developed a specific material to support entrepreneurs on how to develop a green business model. We are providing them with mentoring, coaching, And also we are trying to put them in contact with other entrepreneurs, because what is very important is a value of this kind of people is that as they have developing a kind of service of product, not only for the sake of making a living, and but also for the sake in some way of contributing to a, to a better green planet. These people are, it's much more easy that between them, among them, they can connect and create businesses and let's say joint ventures that would multiply the effect. And this way we have also developed a community of green entrepreneurs. Currently it's only in the Mediterranean region, but of course it will be great that this will be, let's say, scaled to a world level. And last but not the least, the problem here, the finance, as always. Why? Because if entrepreneurs in our society are already dealing with a lot of difficulties in order to get the fund, and I'm referring to conventional entrepreneurs, you just imagine those entrepreneurs that want to not only create a business, but a business that is also complying with some environmental, let's say, requirements, performance, and so on and so forth. They have to deal with higher challenges than the other entrepreneurs. And this kind of value they are providing is not taken into account by the financial sector. And this is why the reference you were making was absolutely key. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Enrique. I think the ideas that have been brought by Rick, Ralph, Mark, and Harris could be implemented a bit into your thinking and business models in the circular economy, green economy, and that could be really enhancing also the variety of ideas and also solutions that you can propose for the Mediterranean region. Thank you very much for this. I would like to invite Cynthia Ishave, my colleague at EMEA. She's a project coordinator, senior researcher. She's not an economist, she's actually an urban planner, and she can present what she's trying to do now within this transformative alliance.
Thank you very much, Reem. Good morning to everybody. So I will be very straight to the point, okay? So as a urban planner, I'm introducing in the panel the territorial dimension, okay? So we are working, as Reem explained, the sustainable transformative action, and I'm working deeply on the territorial resilience. And I will explain you a bit. So it's important, all of these ideas, that we also introduce the variable of the territorial and the urban model. Okay, it's just to mention, for example, we were talking about Africa. Africa is one of the continents that have a more speed up growth of the urban. So we already know that this implies a lot of strategies to put out. So just in a glance, for example, this is the status at global stage. The access to public transportation. One of the main aspects that now cities are tackling is sustainable mobility. So we can see that high-income countries, of course, they have more access. But the truth is that still these high-income countries are the most high emitters. Even Europe is still having this excellent access to public transportation. Still 82% of the displacement are with vehicles. So this has to be changed. Something is not working at all. So what I am trying to introduce is this idea that we are going from a post-carbon cities to a post-pandemic territories, because other aspect has been realized after the pandemic. Our lifestyles are changing, and also the way that we use our territories and what we consume and what we are consuming basically. And this is, for example, the biocapacity, the ecological footprint establishes, which is the ratio of at a country level that we are extracting materials and the reservation that we have. So this is essential because, of course, we can see that there's a plenty number of countries that we are exceeding the quantity of material. So in this sense, and related to, so we also need to understand what is happening in different types of territories. We have been looking at the urban because we are hearing all the time, we're becoming more urban, all the population is becoming urban. Yes, we are concentrating in urban areas, but we don't need to forget that we have coastal areas, medium-sized cities and rural areas, that they will stay, and we need them also to exist. So what we're working precisely in this idea of the territorial resilience is how we can not only measure, but to establish which is this symbiosis between from the urban to the rural areas, going from an industrial symbiosis, technological symbiosis, knowledge symbiosis, and the most challenging, the social symbiosis, how we can evolve and have a more collective intelligence. So one example that we are working with our colleagues from Interregmed program and the Renewable Energy Project is this, the ETU initiative. It's Ecosystemic Transition Unit that we will evolve it into transformative. But the aim is that what we wanted to achieve is not only the energy transition as a decarbonization strategy, but how to integrate in a more holistic way the different aspects that are integrated, and finally tackles communities, territories, and of course biodiversity. So the mindset here is to establish from an ecosystemic point of view different components, indicators that can measure it, and we have tested with 9 different territories in the north shore of the Mediterranean. 3 urban areas, small municipalities, 3 islands, and 3 rural areas. So we work with them from local authorities, also entrepreneurs and cooperatives in different cases. And some of our 3 main policy recommendations from it's how to evolve the sense of the energy plans into rural areas, the integration of mobility plans, for example, how to address strategies for association of municipalities. So we work with them, self-sufficient scenarios. Also how to integrate more in a local authorities e-mobility, for example. And at the end, because this program works with a transferring approach, so which is the capital, finally, equivalent that we are replicating. So we, in order to the number of replications that we achieve, so if the community of projects in the renewable energy was funded by 13.3 million euros, this effort of the transferring and mainstreaming represents a 28.8, almost 28% of the funded. So it's a way to also measure this effort of transferring knowledge, okay? So in a glance, of course, we need to work on the cities because they are the most impactful areas, but in the sense that we also have a good synergy with the rest of territories because they provide us of resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. I think we will continue working on this at EMEA together with all our friends and partners. We have 4 minutes left. 4 minutes left. We're done, almost. I want to ask each one of you 2 words for the COP27. What do you expect from the COP27? Mark.
We're just hoping for action.
Since Eric left, I'm going to take his for 1 minute. But I want to repeat something he said, which I think it's really cool. The idea of delinking growth from pollution. That's what he's saying. It's not always got to be, we grow and we pollute. His technology is saying we can grow without polluting. In fact, we can reduce pollution with growth. And I think that is really fundamental.
My brief comment would be that I think that neuroscience can give us a little bit more leverage and change of human behavior in the climate debate.
Thank you. I just would repeat what he was saying. I think that it's key that there is a role to be taken by neuroscience in order to take action on the other hand.
I will say more empathy and fruitful leadership, not political leadership.
Much for all the speakers. It has been very inspiring discussion. Thank you very much. I would like to thank all the present here and whoever is following us on live streaming. I want to say one word: let's transform. Thank you very much.